Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here, back with another Batman miniature game battle report. Today I'll be using my Mr. Freeze crew. It's a crew that I've used before with a little bit of variation. I'm going to use the often talked about, but I've never seen this on a battle report, Fire and Ice crew. So we have Captain Cold as, he's my sidekick, but he's functioning as the boss in this game. And for a sidekick, we are bringing along Killer Frost. So we've got the two Mr. Freeze sidekicks taking control of the group for this battle. And so that takes care of the ice section of this list. So now we go on to the fire. We, of course, have Captain Cold's partner, Heatwave, as my first free agent. And then we have the newly painted Firefly as my second free agent. So this list is a little themey. It's kind of like the idea. You got the fire, you got the ice, but actually fire and ice couples really well together in games of Batman miniature game. Cold attacks generally take away movement counters, and movement counters are the things that take away fire counters once you get set on fire. So the general idea is that the cold characters set up the fire characters for delivering some devastating fire damage. To round out the crew, I also brought Little Spark, gonna try him out again. I have Pipe Prisoner, because of course gotta have Pipe Prisoner, and I'm taking the Bodyguard Prisoner for the first time. Little Spark, I had some funding left over. I thought I was really short at first, but then I remembered sidekicks don't pay anything as far as funding goes when they're made the boss, so I had some cash. I gave a grapple gun to Little Spark. I know he doesn't necessarily need it because he does have Unpredictable and can spend his special counters as movement or whatever else he likes. But I just thought that this guy would be a good character to really get moving in particular spots. And the Bodyguard, I had enough funding for the Cool Generator, so he gets the stop rule as well. It's more expensive in a freeze crew than a Whistle in the Brave and the Bold, but it's still just a fantastic piece of equipment. And of course, having the stop rule in a crew with a bunch of flame templates that are going to be handing out a bunch of fire markers, even better. My opponent is back with his Central City Villains crew. That's Gorilla Grodd and company. He's changed up his list from the last time we played, but we still have a lot of the core troops present. We have Gorilla Grodd, of course, as the leader. Can't have anyone else. We've got Gorilla 1 and 2. We have Gustav Gustafsson. That's the prisoner with the carbine. He's back again. We have a couple of the new henchman pack guys rounding out things. We have High Security Henchman again. He's been given a grapple gun. I think that's a good addition. We also have two guys that I've never faced before. We have Tyrone. He's the prisoner with I think he has Master Fighter and Brass Knuckles for the Reinforced Gloves rule. We've got Grodd. He's the character with the automatic gun, again, a really good gun. And he also got Rapid Fire, so he's a fast shooting handgun guy. And then we have Slipknot. This is the model that I talked about last time. My opponent has made a conversion of him. I mistakenly said that he took the base model of Slipknot and turned him around. Actually, I've been corrected. He's using a model from the Bane crew. I'm not sure what it is, but he's changed him around, and so he looks a lot more cool. If I'm not mistaken, High Security Henchman also has something like Ancient Weapon or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. Here's a picture of the board that we'll be playing on. Some of you may have seen these videos before. I am working on my Joker's Wild Casino, so that project is moving forward, and I'm using it in a game for the first time. It's, as you can see, it is really big and stupid. I mean, it takes up a lot of space, but it also gives a lot of height to the whole table. Hopefully that'll be usable. He's playing in a fast crew with a lot of acrobats, jumpers, grapple guns, that kind of thing. I've got some decent movement myself. And then just because I wanted it to look kind of like a sleazy downtown area, I added in those Suicide Squad buildings. So yeah, there is a lot of height on this board. There's a lot of big impassable buildings. I actually didn't put in a lot of scatter terrain because I thought, it was already really crowded as it is. I'm going to see how this board plays. I'm curious about it. I do like the look of it. It's not quite complete. I've got more things to expand the casino with, but wow, it definitely stands out in a gaming area. This, by the way, is taking place at Junction Games in Rocklin, California. Anyway, this photo is taken after all of the urban furniture and objectives and crews have been placed. As far as strategies go, I took Fast Advance. I'm not sure that was a great idea for this particular scenario. On the one hand, it gets me a lot closer to that central objective. Oh, I'm sorry, the scenario here is Trophy. It's the one where you got the weird L-shaped deployments. There's a central objective in the middle that both players can score off of. It scores 3 VPs around, and you get bonus victory points for KOing enemy models. Now, we couldn't quite figure out if you score victory points if you take someone straight to casualty. My thinking and my opponent's thinking is that you did, so that's how we're treating it in this game. I got the choice of which deployment zone I wanted. I think I made a good choice. I went with the lower left, so that's my L-shaped deployment zone. And again, I took fast advance, so it made it a lot bigger. Now, on one hand, it gets me closer. On the other hand, it gives my opponent a lot more room to put down his objectives as well. I also took the fake objective, which as soon as I took it, I immediately forgot about it. Didn't nominate one of his objectives to score him less victory points. Just completely slipped my mind after this point. He took the strategy that allows all of his henchmen to get the fast trait, which, you know, it just makes sense. That's what you get Central City villains for. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he probably took a patrol or two. I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, here's where my guys are mostly deployed. I bunched up almost all my dudes at the closest point I could to that central objective. I plan on moving in there and grabbing it with both hands. We've got Heatwave, Captain Cold, Bodyguard Prisoner. Now, I want all those guys within 4 inches of each other. Bodyguard Prisoner so that he can bodyguard Killer Frost and Captain Cold. And, of course, Captain Cold and Heatwave have teamwork, so they can borrow each other's counters if they're within 4 inches. Then we have Little Spark with his grapple gun, and Killer Frost is over there on the right. We also have my Pipe Prisoner creeping along all by himself on the other side. My intention was I'm going to move that guy into the sewers round 1 and go after the objectives behind my opponent's lines. He has used Hidden to deploy his high security henchman right there. So Pipe Prisoner is kind of all on his own with a scary maniac sneaking around trying to get him. So he's not in a fantastic spot. Here's some of my opponent's crew. We've got Grodd and Tyrone creeping along the side of the main casino area of the Joker's Wild Casino. Then here is the rest of his crew. He's got Gorilla 1 and 2 up on the building on the left-hand side. Gustav Gustafsson is just in a great spot where he is right there. You can see him kind of perched on the ledge of that building off to the left. So he can see the sewer access because he put a lamppost near that. And he's also got a line of sight to the objective in the middle of the table. So he's just in a nice spot to cover 2 important areas of the table. Then Gorilla Grodd is right there in the middle, and Slipknot is sort of hiding off to the right. Now, I didn't take a picture of this, which is crazy. I thought that I did, but we'll go back to this one photo of the board setup, and you can see that I put my Firefly way up on the tower on the big column of Joker's Wild Casino. Now, he's really high up, but he has fly. He also has bat cape, so he can drop down really easily. And up on that tower, he's got a lot of options as to where he drops down to. So if you're wondering where he disappeared to, he's being very dramatic and hanging out up there. So it's time for the game to begin, and so we reach into the Bag of Destiny. I get an extra counter because Captain Cold, and also Captain Cold gives me extra strategy points. If you're wondering how I got the strategies that I did, well, that's the reason why. He wastes no time, and there's no reason not to send high security henchmen right out there right away. He's going to go carve up Pipe Prisoner. I believe at the Raise the Plan phase, I realized that I no longer wanted to send Pipe Prisoner through the sewer. That doing that would just get him shot by Gustav. And normally I don't mind having this guy get shot at by a gun, especially a carbine, which I'm not terribly afraid of. He's got 5 endurance, but the way I would pop out of that sewer is that I wouldn't get any pings. He's only defense 2, and so it wouldn't take much for him to hit and wound with all of his shots, which would instantly casualty Pipe Prisoner. So I decided I really didn't want that. I want Gustav to waste some of his ammo first, or something better to happen. And so for the time being, I thought, you know what, I'm going to try and protect my objectives. High Security Henchman actually doesn't have a fantastic damage output a lot of the times. So if I pile a bunch of defense tokens on Mr. Pipe Prisoner, I probably am going to be okay. And sure enough, I am. He had to spend a bunch of movement counters to get him over there. Pipe Prisoner had a couple of defense counters. So in the event, High Security Henchman is only able to put 1 blood on Pipe Prisoner, which is a completely reasonable trade as far as I'm concerned. Okay, now here is probably a mistake on my part. I do a lot of things, I look at where things can go and all that kind of stuff, and I decide I'm going to go for a particular maneuver right here. I'm going to take Killer Frost. Killer Frost has used Adaptable to up her defense up to 5. She's an acrobat, so she can jump without penalty, and so she goes all the way up onto this building here. She hangs out within 8 inches of the gorilla with the spear, and she uses the stop rule on it. Now my thinking is I'm 8 inches away, that gorilla, it's now only going to move like 6 inches. I'm fine, and now that gorilla has problems getting down off that building. I've slowed it down and it's setting me up for those fire attacks later on. So this was a series of mistakes that I made. First off, I vastly underestimated how fast the gorilla crew is. So I was figuring, you know, they're base movement 4, and they're also 2 inches because they're an extra 2 inches because they're large. I had forgotten A, that they had acrobat, so now they're up to 7. B, my opponent had a strategy that gives all the henchmen plus 2 inches, plus 2 movement. So now we're up to 9. And C, I had forgotten that the spear has a 2-inch reach. So Killer Frost is way in range of this gorilla with the spear when I thought I had just shut this guy down for a round. And sure enough, Gorilla just wanders straight in, takes that spear, and tries to stab Killer Frost. I should be okay. This is generally what I do. I take my defense 5 characters, I just throw them out there, accepting that they're going to be fine. She wasn't fine in this case. The Gorilla with the spear does manage to get 1 hit through, causes its 2 blood, successfully wounds, and also gets a 6 on the crit. And even worse, those spears have a double blood crit, so all of a sudden Killer Frost has taken 4 blood, and she only has 6 endurance, so she is in a lot of trouble. And of course, she's up on a roof where support is kind of far away. So I have a bit of a think. I've kind of got a bunch of problems going on right here. I'm not sure how to rescue Killer Frost, or if I even should rescue her. I do want to see how some of my opponent's models commit first, so I go and I activate Pipe Prisoner. Pipe Prisoner is not going through the sewer, as I mentioned earlier. He is just going to walk over here and to go to that Titan objective, and he's going to draw himself a dose of Titan. So basically, he has been charged with protecting my entire left flank. He is there to try to deny people from scoring victory points and to stay alive as long as possible. I'm not sure how long that's going to be, but Titan will help. He's going to activate Grodd. Grodd is going to move over to the sewer. He doesn't have the counters to move through it, but he's moved into contact with it. And here is my rescue attempt. I'm going to take Little Spark. Little Spark is going to activate his grapple gun, and he's going to go fly up there and attack that monkey with the spear. Now, he does hit. He only had 1 attack, so he does hit. He does cause 2 stun damage to the gorilla, which is fine. But really, primarily what I wanted to do is to have another body to stand between the next gorilla, the one with the fists, and Killer Frost. I don't want that other gorilla to wander in there and immediately KO Killer Frost. So I figure I've got Little Spark up there, I'm standing in between them. Hopefully that'll keep Killer Frost alive for another turn. Sure enough, here comes the gorilla with the fists. He thunders in there and he throws a bunch of punches at Little Spark. He manages to do 2 stun. So I guess, you know, that plan did work. I'm still not in a great position. I may simply be throwing more models into a bad situation. But I still have a plan. I'm going to activate my bodyguard prisoner, Prisoner 04. He's just going to walk forward a little bit, and he's going to use his cool generator, he's within 8 inches now, on that new gorilla. So I've got both gorillas on the rooftop under the stop effect. Gorilla Grodd is going to cause more misery to the situation I got up on my right-hand side. He's going to jump up onto the roof and he is going to mind control Little Spark. Little Spark has a willpower of 5. He is well away from Captain Cold, who has his leadership ability, which would have allowed him to reroll that. So Little Spark is going to get mind controlled. And now Killer Frost really wants to be away from there because, you know, getting attacked by that gorilla with his fists is one thing. Getting attacked with that shock baton from Little Spark, that handy mechanical shock baton, is quite another situation altogether. And of course, my opponent gets this card right now, so next round he gets to allocate those action counters to Little Spark however he likes. So yeah, Killer Frost is in trouble. But this is what I was trying to do from the very beginning. I'm going to fly down Firefly here, and I've got a bunch of people who can't spend their movement counters. They're in some serious trouble as far as I'm concerned. He's going to spray fire on those 2 gorillas. He's going to cause a blood and 2 stun on the gorilla with the fists. I believe I got a crit on that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I only caused 1 stun on the gorilla with the spear. Doesn't matter, what I really want is those fire counters. So I got both those monkeys on fire. Tyrone, he's going to move quickly forward. Remember, these guys have the fast ability, so they are moving at an extra 2 inches. Moving on, Captain Cold is going to creep forward underneath that awning. If I'm not mistaken, he's going to shoot his cold gun on the move. He's going to fire at the gorilla with the fists. I believe he is going to hit and cause 2 blood to that gorilla. Gustav doesn't have any really good targets, so he's actually going to hang out right there. and I'm going to activate Heatwave. Heatwave has Teamwork 2 with Captain Cold, so I'm going to borrow a couple of Captain Cold's movement counters, and I'm going to move myself straight into contact with that trophy objective. We're using that Wayne Tech objective that I painted recently. And here's why I should have waited. Here comes Slipknot. Slipknot has moved forward and he has contested the trophy in the middle of the table. So it's the end of the first round. The punch gorilla, the gorilla with the fists, is KO'd from the fire that he has, the fire damage that he's taken. So all the gorillas, they take 1 blood of damage. They each accumulate an extra fire counter. That's going to KO the gorilla with the fists. Now, interesting thing about the timing of this. So they take the damage in the beginning of the recount phase. And at the end of the recount phase, they have the ability to wake up. So I can KO him and have him wake up just within a tiny amount of time. These gorillas have an endurance of 6, so they can easily wake up. Fortunately, this guy doesn't, so he's going to burn to death next round, which is awesome. So it's a new round, and I'm going to take the lead. Well, job number 1 is getting Killer Frost out of there. I don't want to give up a nice 4 victory points to my opponent, 5, if you count the bonus for KOing. So she is quickly going to use her stop rule on the gorilla with the spear, and she is going to jump away from there. So she's gone. My opponent is going to activate the mind-controlled Little Spark next, which just makes sense. So he hops over that burning gorilla, and he goes and starts laying waste to Firefly. Fortunately, I do okay here. I was worried about Firefly getting mind-controlled. I did not need him hopping into my lines and roasting my own guys with the last ammo on his flamethrower. So I actually didn't put any attack counters onto him, and I stacked all the defense I could on him. So Little Spark comes in there, he's swinging around that electric baton. I managed to block most of the hits. He does get 1 hit through. Firefly does have a Kevlar vest, so it only goes down to 1 stun. The bad news is that Little Spark does get a knockdown on that. Fortunately, I hadn't spent any counters to make Firefly hover, otherwise I would have taken a whole bunch of damage when I fell to the ground. But anyway, a little bit of bad news right there, but it could have been worse. Alright, again, I'm sort of on damage control right here, which is not great, but I really am playing defense. I think I threw my guys up on that rooftop, and that was way too ambitious, way too early for me. Underestimated how fast those gorillas moved, and so I'm trying to fix things right now. So I'm going to activate Firefly next. I'm just going to leave. I'm going to get out of there. I'm going to go hop on top of this awning over here. At the end of my activation, I realize, oh hey, I have the Pyromania rule, and there's a bunch of burning monkeys right in front of me. So Firefly is so happy about that, he gets an extra action counter. I use that immediately to give him hover. Gorilla Grodd is going to go next. Gorilla Grodd is going to jump forward and absolutely pummel the newly non-mind-controlled Little Spark. He's going to smash him into unconsciousness, and he's going to go and, as I predicted, mind-control Firefly. Fortunately, Firefly has a willpower of 6. It's a little worse than a 50-50 chance, but I do manage to pass that willpower test, and so Firefly keeps his wits about him. Captain Cold has a very clean shot. You actually can't see his target right here, but he's lined up real well down the red carpet towards Slipknot. So he fires 2 cold gun blasts at that guy, does a total of 4 blood to him. That's real nice. Slipknot only has 5 endurance. He's left with 1 health remaining. So good job, Captain Cold. Gustav now has a target. He's going to open fire on Heatwave. Now, I'm okay with that. Heatwave has 8 endurance, and he's also got a bunch of pings. So, in the event, I only take 1 blood damage from all of that. But, again, my opponent does roll the knockdown. So, I'm doing okay health-wise, but I'm going to have to burn another action counter when it's time for Heatwave to go. But first, I am going to activate my bodyguard prisoner. Prisoner 04 moves forward a little bit, and he uses that cooling generator on Slipknot. Slipknot was planning on leaving. Slipknot had all the movement set to get out of there, but instead he's going to be sticking around. He's got no attack, no defense counters, so yeah. Here's some more bad news, though. Grodd, with that fast movement of his, he's going to round the corner, and with that handgun and rapid fire, he's going to unload a couple of shots on the prone Heatwave. He's going to cause 2 blood and 2 stun to him, so all of a sudden Heatwave is actually getting really hurt. That automatic gun with rapid fire, that is a good combo. I may have to look at getting myself that new prisoner pack at some point. But it's Heatwave time. Heatwave is going to get up and he is going to move into contact with Slipknot. Now, here's the thing that I was thinking here. I didn't really want to waste my flamethrower ammo, my heat gun ammo on Slipknot. He's only got 1 endurance left. I had stacked 4 attack and 1 special on Heatwave. I was just going to punch him out. Not only that, but I had a special counter there so that I could push him. So my goal was I was just going to punch him a bunch of times and I was going to push him off the objective, and that was going to be it. So I had to lose the special counter after the damage. Heatwave has sturdy. I've taken 5 damage, but because I only drop a counter once I go up to 3, I'm only going to drop 1 counter. So my options were I could drop 1 attack or I could drop the special. And I figured, well, I might as well make absolutely sure. I'm going to drop the special so that I have as many attacks as necessary to KO Slipknot right here. So I move around there, I unload my 4 attacks onto the stopped Slipknot, so I'm getting a +1 to hit, he's -1 defense. And so I hit all 4 times, which is not terribly surprising, and then all I need to do is roll 4 dice, make 1 4 up, and that guy is KO, but no, it was not to be. 4 dice go down, none of them are 4+, Slipknot is just fine. That's actually a really big swing as far as victory points, because not only do I not get the 3 victory points +1 for KOing a free agent, but I also, now he's contesting my trophy, which means I don't get another 3 victory points. So that just saved my opponent, 7 victory points right then and there. So obviously what I should have done is just backed off a little bit and not been so stingy with the fire. This is Heatwave, this is what he does. I should have set him on fire. He couldn't dodge or anything. Even if I would have automatically hit. Pings don't do anything. I would have caused 1 fire counter, I would have caused at least 1 stun, it would have KO'd him, and he would have burned to death in the recount phase. But that is not what I did. I tried to be stingy with the fuel, and this is what I get for it. So over on the other side, High Security Henchman is going to continue to chase down Pipe Prisoner. He's going to throw a bunch of attacks at him. Pipe Prisoner has a bunch of defense still, and of course he's on Titan this round, so he's at defense 3. Woo! Anyway, he does manage to get 1 blood through, but Pipe Prisoner is of course hanging in there, because that's what he does. The Pipe Prisoner just moves around. I'm going to stay in contact with the Titan container, but I just don't want to be in base contact with High Security Henchmen anymore. The bad news is because these guys have so much movement because they're fast now, is that Tyrone is able to get to those medical supplies. So things are looking bad on this side. I just do not have enough people defending those objectives. The Spear Gorilla is going to go, he's going to walk over, and he's going to stab Little Spark while he's on the ground. He manages to put 2 blood on him. Slipknot really has nothing to do. He can't spend any of his counters, and if he moves away from that trophy objective, then Heatwave's going to get the points. So he's just going to kind of stay there and cower and thank whatever he believes in that Heatwave didn't bash his face in right there. And so it's the recount phase. I'm showing you a picture of this. The Spear Gorilla goes KO due to all the fire on him. He is not going to wake up at the end of the recount phase, and the Gorilla with the Fist is going to burn to death. So that does make me feel a little bit better. Unfortunately, my opponent is going to take the lead again. So Grodd is going to pummel Little Spark some more. He doesn't roll fantastically. He only manages to put 1 more blood on him. And he's going to try to mind control Firefly. But again, Firefly is doing real well. Captain Cold is right below him, so he gets that reroll if he needs it. And yeah, so he keeps his own brain. But Grodd is not quite done with Firefly. He does jump across that ledge, and he moves into contact with Firefly, ready to punch him a bunch of times next round. Alright, Heatwave is just kicking himself for not frying that jerk last round, so this time he's definitely going to do it. He doesn't like being right in the sights of Gustav Gustafsson, so he's going to grab a little cover too. He moves off a little bit, and he takes out the fire thrower, and he just incinerates that Slipknot guy. That's what he gets. Unfortunately, here comes High Security. High Security henchman leaves Pipe Prisoner and the Titan container. He's going to use his grapple gun, and he's going to rocket across the board up onto that ledge and into contact with Firefly. Firefly is no longer hovering because it goes away at the end of the round, and he is not a martial artist, so High Security henchman is going to get a +1 to hit. So he stabs him with all the attacks in the world and just kills Firefly straight out. That was not great. It wasn't so terribly off the averages. You know, if he had missed a little bit more, Firefly probably would have been okay. He had that Kevlar vest, but it was not to be. High Security Henchman just murders my expensive free agent right quick. Killer Frost is going to move up. She's going to decide that she's going to make a break from my objectives. She's going to move into contact with that corner. Gustav can't actually see her, not that I'm too worried about it. She's, again, adaptable to her defense onto 5. Gustav doesn't like the position that he's in. He cannot actually see Heatwave right now, and of course can't see Killer Frost. So he feels like he needs to go somewhere else, at least contest that ammo objective that Killer Frost is running to. He doesn't quite have enough movement after all the drops and things to actually pick up another ammo for his carbine. That leaves the way clear for Bodyguard Prisoner to move up and claim that trophy. Grodd is going to move forward, and he's actually going to fire past Bodyguard Prisoner and into Heatwave. Heatwave is going to take 1 blood and 1 stun from that round of firing, and he is going to get a knockdown result as well. So Heatwave is in real bad condition. I think he only has 1 endurance left. Captain Cold didn't really appreciate that dude firing at his good buddy, so he zaps Grodd for 2 blood damage, and he's going to move over to Killer Frost. And Tyrone, everyone thinks that Tyrone is garbage, but he leaves those medical supplies, jaunts over to Pipe Prisoner there in front of the Titan container, and he lays him out. He does enough damage with those brass knuckles of his to KO Pipe Prisoner. It took 2 rounds for high security henchmen to put 2 damage on Pipe Prisoner, but Tyrone managed to do that, to do 3 damage in 1 round. So hey, there you go. Tyrone better than high security henchmen. So it's a new round, and I'm feeling like this game is rapidly getting away from me. I lost an expensive free agent. Heatwave is almost certainly going to get taken out this round. I am not in a great position to do much damage. I've taken out some of the low strength models on my opponent's side, but I really haven't done much to dent his combat effectiveness. So I'm feeling like this game's going downhill fast. And my opponent takes the lead again, which absolutely does not help. So he's going to immediately activate Gorilla Grodd. Gorilla Grodd's going to hop down below the awning, and he is going to KO Heatwave. He's going to go, and he's also going to turn around, and he's going to mind control Captain Cold. Now, we had a little bit of discussion about this. My interpretation of Captain Cold's leadership rule is that all friendly models within 4 inches of Captain Cold get to re-roll willpower tests, which includes Captain Cold. Now, yeah, I think this is the way it works. We played it that way. Guess what? It doesn't matter. Captain Cold failed both his 6 or less willpower checks, so my opponent's leader just took over the brain of my boss. Well, that puts me in more bad conditions. So I do want to stop Captain Cold from shooting anymore. So he's only got 1 shot with his gun left, and that's the full power shot. He did have a really nice shot lined up for that. That was going to be a really cool ice template. If I could have landed the shot on Gorilla Grodd, it would have affected high security henchmen up there on the awning too, but I would have needed to have taken the lead, and I didn't do that. So instead, I don't want Captain Cold to shoot that high power shot at, say, Bodyguard Prisoner or Killer Frost or anyone like that. So I'm going to move Killer Frost into contact with Captain Cold, and I'm going to use the stop ability on high security henchmen, hopefully keeping him from murdering someone else for at least this round. Grodd, having done his damage and being out of bullets for his gun, moves over to the ammo container. Prisoner 4 is just trying to stay alive right now. Too many bad things happening around him. He's going to sneak around to the opposite side of that trophy objective, and he's going to crouch. Gustav, over at the ammo container, he's going to open fire on poor Heatwave, unconscious, down on the ground, and he's going to put enough rounds into him to take him out of action. Tyrone also has an unconscious person right in front of him. He's going to take those brass knuckles, and man, he manages to land two successful wounds with those brass knuckles, which are 2 blood damage for those hits, and he also gets the crit. And so we looked this up, and it's a little bit unclear, but the rule is that for the coup de grace rule, you can turn 1 stun into 1 blood for each die that rolls damage. And since he rolled a crit on the collateral die, that's a die, and it caused a stun damage, which we interpret as being that he can cause a blood damage instead. So he just smashed poor Pipe Prisoner down on the ground. He did exactly the 3 blood that it needed to take him out. And I am losing crew models really, really fast now. The victory point totals are still reasonably close, but I can feel this really gathering momentum in the wrong direction. And so after that successful little bit there, Tyrone just goes and hops back onto the medical supplies because it's worth more victory points. The mind-controlled Captain Cold goes and punches Killer Frost. That's all he can do. He's got his 2 attack. Killer Frost is still defense 5, but hey, Captain Cold is the leader, and so he angrily punches her with the butt of the cold gun, manages to cause 1 stun to her, kind of impressive. And then he, zombie-like, moves over to Gorilla Grodd, ready to get punched next round. High security henchman has very little movement, and he wants to get down on the ground. He tries to climb down that pole down over there, but he doesn't quite have enough movement to make it. Doesn't matter, he drops the last couple of inches. He's going to take 1 stun damage, and he is going to fail his movement test, and he's going to land on his butt. And so he is knocked down with 1 stun. So there are 2 rounds left in this game. There are 3 counters, and of course, because I have that extra mastermind counter in there, I've got 2 counters to my opponent's 1. It doesn't matter, my opponent picks up his last counter, and so he is going to take the lead yet again. He is going to activate High Security Henchman, who dusts himself off, wanders over, and stabs Captain Cold a bunch of times. When all said and done, he's going to hit 4 times, but that doesn't matter because Captain Cold really saw this happening. He needs to live. He has stacked 4 defense counters, so he rolls all 4 of those counters. I need a 4 or above to cancel a hit. Hey, what do you know? I fail all 4. So this is my second set of 4 dice rolls needing 4s that I fail all 4 of. So he's going to take a nice 4 blood damage, and unsurprisingly, he's going to get a knockdown because High Security Henchman has Brutal. Killer Frost sees what's happening to the rest of the group and decides that she would much rather be someplace else. So she is going to move all the way over to Gustav Gustafsson. She wants to at least be in base contact with him so that he doesn't get his full rate of fire. And she's going to go ahead and stab him with her ice dagger. She's going to hit him for 1 blood of damage. Well, there is a knockdown Captain Cold right at the feet of Gorilla Grodd. Gorilla Grodd is going to activate, and he is going to KO Captain Cold. Just smash him with those big monkey fists until he loses consciousness. Then he is going to, why not, mind control Prisoner 04. So my bodyguard prisoner is now under the control of the Central City villains. This is bad news. This means this round I am only going to actually activate 1 model, and that was Killer Frost. Everything else is my opponent. Gorilla Grodd, for the remainder of his activation, is just going to go ahead and he's going to claim that trophy objective in the center of the table. Mind-controlled bodyguard prisoner is going to wander aimlessly away. Right in front of Groddy. Groddy grabs himself another ammo from that ammo stack right there, opens fire on the bodyguard prisoner. He manages to do 2 blood and 3 stun, which is enough to KO the bodyguard prisoner. Tyrone is just going to hang out on his medical supplies, and just to round everything out, Gustav can pull another ammo from that to just walk around that ammo objective a little bit and try and shoot his 3 shots at Killer Frost. Killer Frost only has 1 endurance left, and wouldn't you know it, Gustav Gustafsson does manage to get that 5 or above. He's going to go and he's going to put 1 blood and 1 stun on Killer Frost, and I have been tabled. All of my guys are unconscious. This is a pretty brutal loss for me. It was staying pretty close there for a while, but obviously round 4 and 5, things just started falling apart for me. So this is the first time I think I've actually seen someone get completely wiped off the table. Now granted, I have been on endgames where people have quit before the full 6 rounds, but I think this is the first time where I've seen everyone taken off through damage. Anyway, interesting game. I will say that I think I made a number of mistakes. First off, I'm not sure that fast advance was a great idea for this particular scenario because it did bring those objectives closer to my opponent, who of course had that fast ability, which I was not taking into account well enough. Also, I bunched everybody up towards the trophy objective when I probably would have been better off, at least in the beginning, either being more central or moving them into that center zone so that some of my shooters, Heatwave and Captain Cold and all them, could cover both the trophy and my opponent's objectives. And last, jumping Killer Frost onto that roof, well, there are a bunch of problems with that. First off, I underestimated how fast those gorillas can move. Second off, I think that was just way too aggressive of me. I think I would have been much better off keeping everybody together, keeping them all clustered, try to tempt him to move in, slowly move up and claim that trophy objective. But instead, I just jumped the gun a little bit. I thought, this will work. I'm going to move in there. I'm going to get that stop rule in. I'm going to get those flamethrower shots in. I'm going to get that cold fire combo going, and I'm going to roast some people. And it worked, but I stuck these people out in a place where they couldn't be supported on the top of that building, and they kind of got mind-controlled and punched to death. So, I mean, some of them had to escape, but I mean, that means they lost an activation and all that kind of thing. So I think if I play this more cautiously next time, I'm in a better place. You know, I'll try it. I'll see what it's like. But this was what you'd call a learning experience right now. Anyway, congratulations to my opponent. One last note, when everyone was jumbled up on that building, we started getting really nervous because there were a lot of resin models up there, and they were all kind of perched precariously on the edges of these things. And sure enough, I went and I bumped that building, and Gustav Gustafsson toppled off the side where he was at and onto the carpeted floor of the game shop. Normally I wouldn't be too concerned about this, but man, that resin, the tip of his rifle just snapped right off, and we could not find it. I really looked a long time trying to get that thing. I feel really bad. I'm sorry that I'm the one that bumped that thing. But yeah, everyone be careful with your resin models. People have been talking about how easily they snap, and I haven't had any problems with them yet. But here we have sort of a very easy drop for this one guy. The metal model would have had no problem with, or even a plastic one, but resin just shattered. Shattered the tip of this gun. So that was a bit of a drag. Anyway, beside that, it was a really nice game. I am happy with how the terrain worked out. It was hard to maneuver things at times, mostly tape measures. Like, the models themselves moved back and forth reasonably well, but trying to stretch tape measures on these weird angles under awnings and up buildings was more difficult. On the other hand, the casino itself was kind of a big lump. No one actually got up there. We did specifically put a sewer marker there so that people could go up there if they felt like it, but it didn't really get used. It was just sort of an impassable center. But I love the awning. I love the upper level and the lower level. I love the tower. We got lots of usage out of that. I think maybe it doesn't need quite so many tall buildings, but I am happy with it. I think it is a playable surface, this casino, and of course there's more stuff that I'm going to add to it. But anyway, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, that kind of thing, please let me know in the comments field below, and I will see you on the next one.